Okay, welcome to part 1 of this tutorial series. In this video we're just going to talk about the database structure and the file structure, sort of as usual really. I've removed all the PHP code from these pages, so I'll just load up the admin page. You can see all we get is sort of the table header, and nothing happens. If I just open the page up, I've got the code here. You can see that admin page is currently blank. There are just two PHP blocks where we're going to add some sort of PHP code as part of the tutorial. So yeah, that's basically it. This CSS code here is just to make the table look a bit more, like, less horrible in a way, really. So this isn't part of the tutorial. Feel free to just copy this if you want to follow along now. You can pause the video, obviously. Anyway, so yeah, let's move on. So we have this folder here, and these are the three pages that I demonstrated in the previous part. And then, as usual, we have this core folder. In that folder there's this init.inc.php file, which is currently just completely blank. And then inside this inc folder we have this stats.inc.php file, and again that is just completely blank. So that's basically it for the file structure. It's the same one we always use really, so if I'm not explaining it in as much detail now, you could probably go back and watch some of my earlier videos. To be honest, it's not really that complicated, is it? So anyway, let's move on and create the table. So let's just go back out of this page. There we go. So I've got PHP open here. The database is already created. I'm just called the database hit counter. And I'm going to be creating the table now. So I want to call the table hits. So I'm going to type hits in there, except I'm going to spell it right. And the number of fields is going to be 2. Just the page name and its number of hits. I'm going to hit go. And then the first field is the page name. And that's going to be a varchar of length 32. I'm setting that just to 32 because I know I don't have any pages longer than that. If you know you do have file names longer than that, then you should rename them because they're too long, or you can just make this a bit higher. But set a limit here that is appropriate for your system. Ooh, go away, right. Okay, so that's it, and now that is going to be indexed and it's going to be unique. Like usually we would set like a numeric ID as the first column, where we'd set it to primary and auto increment. In this case we're just using the page name, and we've set it to unique because we want to log we don't want the same page being in the table more than once. It's fairly obvious really. Okay, so the other column is just going to be hits, and that's going to be an integer of length 6. Now you see again, if you think you're going to have more hits than that, you'll have to increase this slightly, but just for this I'm going to set 6, and that is our table pretty much, well, entirely set up. So I'm just going to hit save, and that's it. So that's basically it for the database structure. So now we can move on to the code. So I just go back to our page here and load up example page. That's the first page that we're going to be sort of creating. First thing we need to do obviously is connect to the database, and that's going to be done by our init file. So that's the first page that we are going to code. So obviously this is going to be included by all of our pages as we've used previously. So in this file we want to connect to the database and include any backend files. In this case we only have one backend file, but just to demonstrate sort of consistency and good separation of sort of backend files and functions and stuff, I'm going to be doing it with this init file. So the first thing we need to do is connect to the database, like I've said. So MySQL connect, and this function takes 3 parameters. The first one being the server, the second one being the password, username even, example user in this case. Yours will obviously be different. And the final one being the password, which is example pass in this case as well. And once we've done that, we need to tell the MySQL server which database we want to work with. So we do that using the MySQL select DB function. And this function just takes one parameter, which is the database name, which, if you remember from when I had PHP open, was hit counter. Okay, so that's basically our database connection performed. The next thing we need to do is include our backend files, and we're going to do that again by using sort of this we're going to define the path variable, and that's going to be equal to the dir name function of the file constant, like so. And what this will do, the result of this bit here, will just tell us the full system path to this core folder that I've just opened, learn to speak. So yeah, that's basically what that will do, and then we can use that to sort of include these backend files, because this folder is in this path basically. Oops. So back here. So then we want to do the includes, which is just include, oops, and double quotes, and then we want to include first. We want to start with the path, and then it's a slash because that dir name removes the trailing slash. So slash inc dot slash inc dot slash, so the inc folder, and then inside the inc folder it's the stats.inc.php file, which is just this file here, which I've just realised I'm coding in. That was ridiculous. Anyway, I just copy this and paste it into the init file where it should have been. Okay, so I don't know how I managed to do that. I was trying to rush through this first bit because I've done it about 100 times and I'm pretty sure you all know it by now. Anyway, ignore that. Thank God for copy and paste, eh? Anyway, what was I saying? Right, so now we're including this file, and obviously this sort of would make a bit more sense if you had a long list of files, because you'd have like this line would be duplicated over and over, and then you'd have like different file names here, basically. So yeah, that's basically it for sort of the setup of our system. So we can now include this init file in all of these 3 pages. So I'm just going to do that now by typing in include on the right line, include core/init.inc.php. And I'm going to copy that line and paste it onto our other pages. Save, save, save. So now if I load up our page, we should get no errors, which we don't, which means that the files have all been included successfully, a database connection has been established, and we're basically ready to move on to the main part of this system. So what we need to do now is create a function that will log a page view. So we have this table, at the moment it's just completely empty. So on each of these, on each of the pages that we want to sort of log stats for, we're going to call this log hit function. What this function will do is insert a row into the database, or if one exists already, it will update the hit counter. So we're going to be calling this function on example page and other page, but not on admin page. So that's quite an easy way of controlling which pages you log hits for, basically. So yeah, that's it. So we're going to move on to our stats.inc.php file, and we're going to create a new function using the function keyword, and the function is going to be called log hit. And now this function isn't going to take any parameters, so we're just going to leave the brackets empty, and just going to define the whole block there. And then I'm just going to comment what this function does. This function logs a page view for the current file. That's sort of technically what it does. So yeah, that's basically it. So what we need to do first in this function is get to the name of the script that people are viewing. So we want to somehow get we want to get example page.php. That's what we're trying to get on this when they're on this page. And the way we can do that is using the server super global variable array thingy. It's okay, well, I'll just show you what it is basically. If we just do if you go to example page, if I just add here print _r server, like so, and then if I load up our page now, you can see we get this huge amount of information. If I just view the page source, because it'll come up a bit clearer there, you can see this is the information that we've got. So basically what it is it contains loads and loads of information about sort of the server, the request that the browser has sent. So each one of these things starting with HTTP is a header, basically, that your browser has sent to PHP. And then some of these things are like system environment variables like path, but all this is a bit too much in detail really. All we need to worry about in this case is this script name, because that contains the path to the the script. So in this case we're viewing example page.php, so it says tutorials page view counter example page.php. Whoops. So that is what we're trying to get out. And this will always point, this will always be related to the page you're actually viewing. So remember the file constant, well, I'll demonstrate that actually. So if we just remove this now, and in our stats file, if we just do echo, let's see, yeah, echo server script name, which was the one I just highlighted. So then on our example page, if we just call this function log hit, and if we reload our page now, you can see we just get the path to example page. However, if I just demonstrate the difference by doing let's see, I'll have to add a new line here, won't we? So if I do that and then file, there we go. And if I reload our page now, and oh well, yeah, view the page source. Okay, so you see this first line is the result of the server script name variable, and this second one is the result of the file constant. So the file constant always points to the actual file that you use in, and the server script name variable always points to the page that you're actually viewing in the browser, or the page like the first page you loaded with PHP, I suppose. So yeah, hopefully that's clear, and that's why we're using the server array here. I might do a basics video on the server array because it has some quite useful information in it. Anyway, yeah. So let's go back to our code and delete this and this. So what we're going to do is define a variable called page, and that's going to be equal to MySQL real escape string of that. Now what that will be is the sort of full path. We don't want the full path, we just want the file name portion. Luckily for us, PHP has a function that will just return the part of a file path sort of after the last slash, if that makes sense. So say we had the file path, like say this was our file path, this is the final slash here, so this function will just return this. For this file path here, this here is the final slash, so the function will just return this. So that's basically it for that, and this function is the base name function. So it's similar to dir name, except it's kind of the opposite, if that makes sense. So what we have now here is an escaped file name. So I can just demonstrate this by doing echo page, and then reload our page, and you can see we get example page.php. If we then go to other page.php and also call this function, and then load up the other page, you see we get other page.php, and this is what we're going to be using to log our hits. So I'm going to end this here because it's sort of come to a natural point to stop, and in the next part there's something that's a bit complicated that will take more than 56, however many seconds I've got left to explain. So thanks for watching, and join me in part 2 where I'll explain that thing that I just mentioned.